will be a warning to us. It will then be time to leave the large cities, preparatory to leaving the smaller ones for retired homes in secluded places among the mountains. Testimonies, volume 5, page 464 and page 465. At the time of writing this code, the population of San Francisco, that time, of Ellen G. White, was around 10,000, and she called it the big city. So today San Francisco has a population of approximately 1 million. So the time has come, beloved. The time has come when as God opens the way of families should move out of the cities, the children should be taken into the country. Country Living, page 24. Published in 1903. Is there a contradiction? Why is she talking about the time has not yet come for to leave? Then the time has come to leave the city. Is there any contradiction here? What happened between 1885 and 1903? When Ellen G. White says it is not far off when to go, and when she says the time has come, when we see the sign, Ellen G. White tells us that we have to go and get out of the big cities. At the time of this writing, Los Angeles and San Francisco consisted around of 10,000 people, and she called them big cities. The sign of the invasion of Jerusalem was under the Roman Empire, pagan Rome. So we know that Rome having three phases: pagan Rome, papal Rome, and the modern Rome. Revelation 13 and Revelation 17 inform us that it was under the government of modern Rome, led by the Pope, that the first Sabbath will be imposed upon all the world, and the persecution will begin on those who keep the true Sabbath of the Lord. So the sign of Papal Rome. What is the sign of the papacy? The sign, which is the banner, which is the brand or standard. The beast of Revelation chapter 13 gives us the description of his sign. In reply to a letter of October 28, 1895, to Cardinal Gibson, asking if the church claimed the change of the Sabbath as her mark. C.F. Thomas, a counselor of the cardinal, wrote the following: of course, the Catholic Church claims that the change was her act, and the act is the mark of her ecclesiastical power and authority in religious matters. Sunday is our mark of authority. The church is above the Bible, and this transference of Sabbath observance is proof of that fact. This can be read in the Catholic record, London, Ontario, September the 1st, 1923. So the sign is the fourth Sabbath. The sign for gospel to leave the cities is the fourth Sabbath. When we see the sign, we have to leave the big cities. We read in the book of Great Controversies, the Great Controversy, page 27, when the idolatrous standard of the Romans should be set up in the holy ground with extended some furlongs outside the city walls, then the followers of Christ were to find safety in flight. The Protestant world have set up a night Sabbath in the place where God's Sabbath should be, and they are treading in the footsteps of the papacy. Letter number 19, written in 1897. What happened between 1885 and 1897? There was a Sunday law what happened between 1885 and 1903, 1903. There was the first Sunday law between 1885 and 1903. In 1888, W. Blair of New Hampshire brought in a bill. If passed, it would have been the first federal Sunday law in the United States of America. The church sent Alonzo Jones, along with another brother which was Wagoner, to represent the church in the law, and the law did not pass that time. The siege of Jerusalem happened twice. The first time Jerusalem was not destroyed, but it was the sign that the sentry held to recognize the order to flee. The Roman army returned 3 years and a half later to destroy Jerusalem under the command of Titus. So if there were 2 sieges for Jerusalem, for us there will also be 2. The first siege corresponds to the attempt to pass the first Sunday law in 1888. The second will not be delayed, even if it has been more than over 120 years. But just as the Roman armies returned to besiege Jerusalem, this law will be back on the agenda. And since 1888, this is the window that God has left open for his people to leave the cities, to settle in this countryside, to avoid the times of crisis that will arise during the vote and the implementation of the Sunday law. Voting for a national Sunday law is still in fashion. Events are happening, but are we aware of them? Events are happening around us as we speak now. The Lord's Day Alliance organization ought to pass the Sunday law. They call themselves Sunday Christians. December 2001, they wrote that the event of September 11, 2001 are yet another opportunity to elevate Sunday as a holiday. At the bottom of the letter we can read, in the service of the church and the nation since 1888. So Deus Domini, John Paul II, the Pope, promoted the Sunday elevation. It can be read in the Catholic Guide of Catechism of 1994. Leave the towns, leave the cities. The tone of Ellen G. White is more urgent after 1885. Let's read a few quotes. The order to leave the cities, the year of 1885. We can read in the Book of Testimonies, Volume 5, page 464 and 465. Is a quotation we just read earlier. The time is not far distant when, like the early disciples, where we shall be forced to seek refuge in desolate of solitary places. As the siege of Jerusalem by the Roman armies was a signal to for flight to the Judean Christians, so the assumption of power on the part of our nation in the decree enforcing the proper Sabbath will be a warning to us as well. Leave the series in 1906. Out of the series, this is the message the Lord has been giving me. The earthquakes will come, the floods will come, and we are not to establish ourselves in the wicked series. Country Living, page 231. The Lord has sent us a warning counsel to get out of series. Country Living, page 12. When to leave the series? Has it been since 1888? now or tomorrow? Can we leave the city now or tomorrow? Now is the time to leave the cities and move to the countryside. Since 1888, when the attempt was made to pass the first Sunday law, God, in his mercy, left a window open for his people to prepare and settle in the countryside. A warning. In the night I taught in the room, but not in my own house. I was in the city where I knew not, and I heard explosion after explosion. I rose up quickly from in bed and saw from my window large bars of fire jutting out where sparks in the form of arrows and the buildings were being consumed, and in a very few minutes the entire block of buildings was falling, and the screeching and mournful groans came distinctly to my ears. I cried out in my raised position to learn what was happening. Where am I? And where are our family circle? Then I woke, but I could not tell where I was, for I was in another place than home. I said, Lord, where am I, and what shall I do? It was a voice that spoke, be not afraid, nothing shall harm you. I was instructed that destruction had gone forth upon cities, that the word of the Lord will be fulfilled. Manuscript Release, Volume 11, page 361. Isaiah 29:19-2, verse 24 was repeated. I dared not move, not knowing where I was. I cried unto the Lord. What does it mean? These representations of destruction were repeated. Where am I? In sins I have represented that which will be, but warn my people to cease from putting their trust in men who are not obedient to my warnings and who despise my reproof. For the day of the Lord is right upon the world, when evidence shall be made sure. Those who have followed the voices that would turn things upside down will themselves be torn where they cannot see, but will be as a blind man. These words were given me from Isaiah 30. Manuscript Release, Volume 11, page 361. Is the warning for everyone? Is the warning to leave the city for everyone? As a God's commandments keeping people, we must leave the cities. As did Enoch, we must walk in the cities but not dwell in them. Evangelism, page 78 and page 79. Also Country Living, page 30. The cities are to be walked from outpost, said the messenger of God. Shall not the cities be warned? Yes, not by God's people living in them, but by their visiting them, to warn them of what is coming upon the earth. Manuscript Release, Volume 1, page 253. Leave the cities and like Enoch come from your retirement to warn the people of the cities. Manuscript Released, Volume 1, page 250. Again and again, the Lord has instructed that our people are to take their families away from the cities unto the country where they can raise their own provisions. For in the future, the problem of buying and selling will be a very serious one. We should now begin to heed the instruction given us over and over again. Get out of the cities into rural districts where the houses are not crowded closely together, and where you will be free from the interference of enemies. Letter number 5, written 1905. Also, this quotation can be found in the book of entitled Country Living, page 9 and page 10. Let children no longer be exposed to the temptations of the series that are ripe for destruction. The Lord has sent us warning and counsel to get out of series. Then let us make no more investments in the series. Fathers and mothers, how do you regard the souls of your children? Are you preparing the members of your families for translation into the heavenly courts? This is a question for you and I. Are you preparing them to become members of the royal family, children of the heavenly King? What shall it profit a man if he gain the whole world and lose his own soul? How will ease, comfort, convenience compare with the value of the souls of your children? Manuscript released, page 76, paragraph 6. The instruction is still being given. Move out of the series. Letter number 26, written in 1907. Who will be warned? Where we say again, out of the series. Country Living, page 14, written in 1908. Now we just saw that there was the first Sunday law in 1888, and there will be a second law, Sunday law. Let's see God's law. But there must be no assumption of power on the part of God's chosen people. Those who take their orders from Christ must not seek to compel them or others to obey the law of Jehovah. Signs of Times, published in November 22nd, 1899. The Creator has, with his own authority, given you his Sabbath to observe, and yet human agencies will attempt to set aside the 7-day Sabbath, which commemorates God's holy work of creating the world in 6 working days and resting on the 7th day. How can men dare assume the authority of Jehovah and represent themselves as a God to change times and the laws? Manuscript released, volume 21, page 86. So it will be again, but it is over the 7th-day Sabbath that the battle will be fought. The authorities of this world will rise up in their pride and power to make law to restrict religious liberty. They will assume a right that is God's alone, and like Nebuchadnezzar, will think that they can force the conscience which only God can control. Even now, they are making a beginning of these. They will carry forward till they reach the boundary over which they cannot step. Then God will interpose in behalf of his royal commandment-keeping people. Review and Herald, published in December 20, 1898, paragraph 3. God's law and the Sunday law. The pressure of the Sunday law has come and is coming. Where we can see that which we have been talking about for the last 35 years. This law causing the Sunday to be exalted and making human inventions take the place of God's holy day is now being fulfilled. Manuscript released, page volume 10, page 275. This means that Sunday law, beloved, has already come first time, and it will come again a second time, just like the siege of Jerusalem. The sentinel. We must show to the world that we recognize in the events that are now taking place in connection with the national reform movement the fulfillment of prophecy, that which we have for the last 30 and 40 years proclaimed will come, is now here. And the trumpet of every watchman upon the walls of Zion shall be raised, the alarm. Reverend Herald, January the 1st, 1889. Who will evangelize the series if we all go to the countryside? Some people, they ask these questions and then they may say, okay, I will stay in the city because there must be someone in the city to evangelize the city. Let's see what the Spirit of Prophecy says. We see the great need of missionary work to carry the truth, not only the foreign countries, but to those who are near us, close around us, our cities and towns in which no efforts are made to save souls. Why should not families who know the present truth settle in these cities and the villages to set up there the standard of Christ, working in humility, not in their own way, but in God's way, to bring the light before those who have no knowledge of it. Christian Service, page 180. Excuses not to live. We always make excuses. Are cities really evangelized by our actions? How many people have we personally brought into the church? How many Bible studies do we give every week? How many? It is not the purpose of God that his people should colonize or settle together in large communities. The disciples of Christ are his representatives upon the earth, and the God designed that they shall be scattered all over the country, in the towns, cities, and the villages, as lights amidst the darkness of the world. They are to be missionaries for God by their faith and the work testifying to the near approach of the coming Savior. Testimonies, volume 8, page 248 and 245. God's people must protect themselves from divine judgments. Prepare and protect. Will God's judgment fall on his people? The plagues of Egypt did not touch the Hebrews who lived in Goshen. The first 3 concerned the whole country, but the last 7 did not. For the 10th plague, the people had to follow the recommendations of Moses to the letter. If not, they would die of the last plagues of the last plague of God. Anyone who had not followed God's directions scrupulously would have seen their firstborn die. For us, it is the same. If we follow the recommendation of God, beloved, to leave the series before the Sunday law, we will be safe from divine judgment. The Lord calls for his people to locate away from the series, for in such an hour as ye think not, fire and brimstone will be rained from heaven upon this series. Proportionate to their sins will be their visitation. Manuscript Release, volume 21, number 1518, published in 1906. Out of series. This is the message of the Lord. The Lord has been giving me. Calamities are going to befall the series. We just saw this quotation from Life Sketches, page 409 and 410. This is the message has been given me by the Lord. The earthquakes will come, the floods will come, and we are not to establish ourselves in the wicked cities where the enemy is served in every way and where God is so often forgotten. The Lord desires that we shall have clear spiritual eyesight. We must be quick to discern the peril that would attend the establishment of institutions in this wicked series. We must make wise plans to warn the series, and at the same time live there where we can shield our children, ourselves from the contaminating and demoralizing influences to prevalent in these places. Love Sketches, page 409 and 410. Again and again, solemn command was given to hasten, for the fiery storm would be delayed but little longer. But one of the fugitives ventured to cast a look backwards to the doomed city, and she became a monument of God's judgment. If Lot, not the mistake of Lot, if Lot himself had manifested no hesitancy to obey the angel's warning, but had earnestly fled toward the mountains without one word of pleading or remonstrance, his wife also would have made her escape. The influence of his example would have saved her from the sin that sealed her doom. But his hesitancy and delay caused her to lightly regard the divine warning. While her body was upon the plain, her heart clung to Sodom, and she perished with it. Patriarch and the Prophet, chapter 14, page 162. Must we disobey God and continue to live in the series, to evangelize the people of the series? Obey God's command. Do we have to sacrifice ourselves and continue to live in the city to do evangelization? 1 Samuel 15 verse 22. It is written, it is better to obey than to offer sacrifice. The order is given by the Lord to live the series, and we must obey that order. By living in the countryside does not mean doing nothing and forgetting the inhabitants of the cities. Let's read in the Country Living, page 31 and page 32. It is written, we must make wise plans to warn the cities, and at the same time we live where we can shield our children and ourselves from the contaminating and demoralizing influences so prevalent in these places. Obey the divine order. The cities are to be worked from outpost. Said the messenger of God, shall not the cities be warned? Yes, not by God's people living in them, but by their visiting them to warn them of what is coming on the earth. Letter number 184 and 82, published in 1902. It is God's design that our people should locate outside the cities, and from these outposts warn the cities and raise in them memorials for God. There must be a force of influence in the cities that the message of warning shall be heard. Review and heard, April 14, 1903. Also Evangelism, page 76. As a God's commandment keeping people, we must live the series as did Enoch. We must walk in the series, but not dwell in them. When iniquity abounds in the nation, there is always to be heard some voice giving warning and instruction. As the voice of Lot was heard in Sodom. Yet Lot could have preserved his family from many evils had he not made his home in his wicked, polluted city. All that Lot and his family did in Sodom could have been done by them, even if they had lived in a place some distance away from the city. Enoch worked with God, and yet he did not live in the midst of any city polluted with every kind of violence and wickedness, as did Lot in Sodom. Evangelism, page 77 and page 78. Also manuscript release, page 98. Some will stay in cities at the very last moment. Is it true? Is there any remnant in the that will remain in the, among God's people that will stay in the cities? Is it common to hear that a remnant will be in the city by the end? In the great controversy, Ellen G. White tells us that before the decree of death, all will flee the cities. As the decree issued by the various rulers of Christendom against commandment keepers shall withdraw the protection of government and abandon them to those who desire their destruction, the people of God will flee from the cities and the villages and associate together in companies